You know that sinking feeling you get when you're standing in your kitchen after crushing a workout, staring at that container of grilled chicken or your protein shake, and suddenly doubt creeps in. You start wondering if eating this food right now is going to completely undo everything you just accomplished in the gym. Maybe you've been fasting all morning, your stomach is practically screaming at you, and then someone confidently announces that the second you consume any protein, your entire metabolism just shuts down. They tell you insulin spikes through the roof, fat burning stops completely, and all those precious cellular cleanup benefits you've been chasing simply vanish into nothing. It's incredibly frustrating when you're genuinely trying to do everything right, but the rules seem to change every single week, and everyone you talk to has a completely different opinion about what actually works for your body.
For years, we've been living under this very rigid belief system about how metabolism functions. We were taught that your body operates exactly like a simple light switch on your bedroom wall. It's either completely off or completely on. There's absolutely no middle ground, no gray area, no room for anything in between. When that switch is off, you're in what they call fasting mode. Your body is supposedly cleansing itself, repairing all the damaged cells, burning through your stored fat reserves, and activating all those longevity pathways that everyone talks about online. But the very second you flip that switch on by eating something, especially protein, everything supposedly reverses direction. Your body immediately stops all the cleaning processes, stops burning fat for fuel, and instead starts growing and storing energy. We were told in absolutely certain terms that you simply cannot have both processes happening at the same time in your body. It's supposedly biologically impossible. You have to pick one or the other, like choosing between two completely different paths.
What if everything we've been taught about this was fundamentally incomplete? What if the human body doesn't actually operate in such black and white terms? What if you could actually trigger muscle growth and muscle building without completely shutting off those cellular cleanup systems that keep you healthy and young? A groundbreaking study that just came out in Cell Reports has completely thrown a wrench into everything we thought we understood. This research is suggesting that our entire understanding of protein and cellular cleanup has been missing some absolutely critical pieces of the puzzle. The study demonstrates something that honestly seems almost too good to be true. You can actually consume a massive amount of protein. We're talking about up to 100 grams in a single sitting, without shutting down your body's internal cleaning and repair systems. And this discovery completely reshapes how we need to think about designing our diets, reducing stubborn belly fat, and protecting our precious muscle tissue as we get older.
When stepping back to really understand why this finding is so revolutionary, we need to step back and look at the old logic that's been controlling our decisions for so long. The traditional belief system worked like this. Autophagy, which literally translates to self-eating in Greek, is your body's sophisticated breakdown and recycling process. It kicks in when your body finds itself low on nutrients and needs to become resourceful with what it has. When you're deprived of food for extended periods, your body doesn't just sit there helplessly waiting. Instead, it goes searching through your cells like a dedicated cleanup crew, looking for anything that can be salvaged and reused. It hunts down waste materials, damaged proteins that aren't functioning properly anymore, old cells that have outlived their usefulness, and broken cellular components that are cluttering up your cellular machinery. Then it recycles all of this material for survival, breaking everything down into usable components that can be repurposed for energy and function. When stating something called mTOR goes down, mTOR stands for mechanistic target of rapamycin, and you can think of it as your body's master growth switch. When mTOR levels are low, your body shifts its focus towards cleanup and repair mode. On the complete opposite side of this equation, when you eat protein, especially protein that's loaded with an amino acid called leucine, mTOR shoots way up. Its primary job becomes building muscle tissue, repairing damaged structures, and promoting overall growth throughout your body. Since mTOR has been scientifically proven to suppress autophagy when it's elevated, the conclusion seemed absolutely obvious and ironclad to everyone. Protein must kill autophagy completely. There's simply no way around it. It's just basic biology. If you want cellular cleanup, you absolutely have to avoid protein. If you want muscle growth, you have to accept that cleanup processes stop entirely. This created an absolutely terrible dilemma for anyone trying to simultaneously lose fat, build muscle, and support their longevity goals all at the same time.
When this latest research reveals something that fundamentally challenges this entire way of thinking, the researchers didn't just work with cells sitting in petri dishes or mice running around in laboratory cages. They actually examined real human beings who were consuming vastly different amounts of protein after their exercise sessions. They compared a normal 25-gram serving, which is roughly what you'd find in a typical chicken breast or standard protein shake, to an extremely large 100-gram serving consumed all in a single meal. Now, traditional fitness advice has been hammering into us for decades that your body can only actually use around 30 grams of protein at one time. Anything beyond that magical threshold number would simply be wasted, either converted into sugar through a process called gluconeogenesis, or at best just used for basic energy instead of muscle building. We were constantly told that the muscle-building cup has a very limited capacity, and it overflows after you hit that 30-gram point. Everything extra supposedly just spills out and goes to complete waste.
When studies actually track metabolic results and completely unexpected results emerge, they are far from conventional or inevitable. The group that consumed 100 grams of protein didn't just build muscle at the same rate as the low-protein group. They actually continued building muscle for hours and hours longer than anyone predicted. There wasn't some hard upper limit where the body suddenly stopped benefiting and started treating protein as garbage. Your body doesn't just dump the excess or treat it like waste material. It keeps using it productively for extended periods of time. And when you actually stop and think about this through the lens of human evolution and survival, it suddenly makes perfect sense and seems almost obvious in retrospect. Our ancient ancestors didn't have neat little meal prep containers stacked perfectly in their refrigerators. They didn't have protein shakes conveniently waiting for them every 3 hours throughout the day. They didn't have the luxury of eating small, perfectly timed meals spread evenly throughout their waking hours. If a tribe successfully hunted down a massive animal like a buffalo or deer, they absolutely feasted on it. They might consume several pounds of meat in one single sitting because they had absolutely no way to preserve or store it for later. And then they would go long periods, sometimes even multiple days, without any food at all until the next successful hunt came along. If the human body truly wasted everything above 30 grams and couldn't properly utilize these large protein doses, our entire species would never have survived the incredibly harsh conditions of our evolutionary past. We were specifically designed through millions of years of natural selection to handle these feast and fast cycles with remarkable efficiency.
When you want a body that's genuinely strong, metabolically adaptable, and resistant to all the stresses of modern life, you need to understand how these mechanisms actually work in reality, rather than just repeating diet myths that sound scientific but completely fall apart when you examine them closely. When the scientists carefully measured the molecular markers of autophagy in these study participants, the discovery was absolutely stunning. Consuming 100 grams of protein did not shut down the autophagy signaling pathways that everyone predicted it would completely suppress. So how is that even remotely possible? How can you eat such a massive protein meal and still maintain your cellular cleanup systems running? The answer lies hidden in how intelligently your body actually tracks and responds to different nutrients coming in. Your body doesn't treat every single food source as if it's exactly the same thing. We often lump all food into one generic category we just call calories, but your body separates protein and carbohydrates into completely different signaling pathways with entirely different messages and completely different effects on your metabolism. Carbohydrates send the loudest, most overwhelming signal in your entire body,
When you eat sugar or starchy foods like bread, pasta, rice, or potatoes, your blood glucose rises sharply and rapidly. In direct response to this glucose surge, insulin floods into your bloodstream in massive amounts, and insulin acts as the master command system that controls almost everything happening in your body. It sends a powerful broadcast message to nearly every single cell in your body simultaneously. The message is absolutely clear and unmistakable. Energy is available right now in abundance.
When starting this incoming energy, stop whatever cleaning and repair work you're currently doing. Start storing this energy immediately. That single hormonal response acts like a global shutdown switch for autophagy, halting the internal cleanup process across your entire body and pushing everything towards storage mode and growth instead. Protein, however, sends a completely different type of message to your system. Protein speaks quietly and specifically to targeted areas of your body. Instead of blasting the entire system with a loudspeaker announcement heard everywhere, it activates highly specific nutrient sensors, especially one called cestrin-2, which has the dedicated job of detecting amino acids floating in your bloodstream. Yes, protein can slightly raise your insulin levels, but not even remotely close to the overwhelming insulin surge that gets triggered by eating carbohydrates. We're talking about a gentle, modest rise versus a massive, overwhelming spike. And without that huge insulin surge flooding through your entire system, the signal your body receives isn't telling it to store energy everywhere in every single cell. Instead, it becomes a much more targeted and specific instruction. Repair the tissues that actually need it. Rebuild the structures that are damaged. Restore what's been broken down through training or daily stress.
When you're in a steady, controlled, fasted state, or when you've just finished a genuinely hard training session, your muscles are absolutely starved for repair material. They're chemically hungry at a cellular level, desperately seeking out the amino acids they need to rebuild all those damaged fibers. So when you consume a large dose of protein, your muscles behave exactly like a completely dry sponge that's been dropped into a full bucket of water. They rapidly absorb amino acids, pulling them straight out of your bloodstream at an incredibly fast rate to rebuild tissue and repair damage. Because your muscles are soaking up these nutrients so aggressively and efficiently, the rest of your body never experiences a dramatic nutrient overflow or surplus flooding through. The levels of amino acids circulating in places like your liver and fat tissue actually stay relatively low. This means that while your muscles are actively building and repairing themselves, your liver and fat cells can still behave as if nutrients are relatively scarce and continue maintaining their cleanup processes.
So you've essentially created a fascinating situation where one part of your body is operating in growth and recovery mode, while another part simultaneously continues cleanup and autophagy. You've effectively divided your metabolism into two different operating systems running at the same time in different tissues. And this powerful dual state effect becomes even stronger and more pronounced thanks to one critical element, an amino acid called leucine. Leucine is the specific amino acid that flips the muscle-building switch more powerfully than any other amino acid in existence. It's the primary trigger for mTOR activation specifically in muscle tissue. As we get older, or when we develop insulin resistance over time, our muscles stop responding as effectively to normal amounts of protein. This phenomenon is called anabolic resistance. Your muscles simply can't hear the building signal anymore at the same volume. The receptor sensitivity decreases significantly. In that situation, 20 or 30 grams of protein just isn't enough to overcome that resistance barrier. You need a much stronger signal, something powerful enough to break through that resistance and force a genuine response. Higher protein meals, 50 grams, 70 grams, even 100 grams, act like a hammer that smashes through the resistance and forces the muscles to wake up and actually respond properly.
But there is one absolutely critical twist to this story. And this is where most people fail to understand the complete picture and end up making serious mistakes. This fascinating ability to simultaneously build muscle and maintain autophagy has mainly been observed and documented in lean, metabolically healthy individuals. When researchers looked at people who are overweight or obese,
the situation changes dramatically and becomes much more complicated. When researchers examined overweight and obese individuals in various studies, they discovered something genuinely unexpected and troubling. The biological signals that normally trigger autophagy were actually elevated in these individuals. On paper, looking at gene expression and molecular markers, it looked like their bodies were literally shouting for cleanup. The genes responsible for initiating autophagy appeared highly active, as if the system desperately wanted to repair all the internal damage that was accumulating. But when scientists measured something called autophagic flux, which is the measurement that truly matters, because it shows whether cleanup is actually happening and completing its full cycle, the process was barely moving forward at all.
In simple terms that anyone can understand, the command to clean was being sent loud and clear, but the machinery wasn't responding to it. It's exactly like trying to start a frozen car engine on a brutal winter morning. You keep turning the key over and over again. The starter motor keeps clicking and trying. You can hear it attempting to work and engage, but the engine absolutely refuses to turn over and start running. The signal is there, the intent is there, but the execution is completely blocked. This happens because obesity creates a state of constant internal stress and chronic low-grade inflammation that pervades every single system in your body. Visceral fat, which is the deep, dangerous fat that wraps around your internal organs like a toxic blanket, floods your entire body with inflammatory chemicals called cytokines. These inflammatory signals damage your mitochondria, which are the power plants of your cells. They disrupt cellular communication pathways. They clog up the very repair mechanisms that are supposed to fix the damage happening inside you. So your body desperately tries to activate autophagy to clean up the mess and repair the accumulating damage. But the system is jammed and blocked by the very problem it's trying to solve. This creates a vicious, self-reinforcing cycle that's absolutely brutal to break free from. You're carrying excess belly fat because your metabolism is broken and dysfunctional. And your metabolism remains broken and gets progressively worse because your body cannot properly activate the cleanup systems that are required to repair it. So instead of improving over time, things slowly deteriorate and get worse week after week.
But this isn't a reason to lose hope or give up entirely. In fact, understanding this mechanism reveals something incredibly important. It provides a clear roadmap for what actually needs to happen. If you're currently overweight or obese, your first mission is not obsessing over whether a small amount of protein ruins autophagy or worrying endlessly about the perfect fasting window length. Your main priority, the thing that matters more than anything else right now, is removing the visceral fat that is literally suffocating your cellular repair systems and blocking them from functioning properly. And here's the surprising truth that goes completely against much of the popular fasting advice you hear everywhere. The solution is not cutting protein lower and lower. It's actually increasing it significantly. Protein does far more than just build muscle tissue in your body. It has an incredibly powerful thermic effect, which means your body has to burn a substantial chunk of calories just to digest and process it properly. This is called the thermic effect of food. Roughly 30% of the calories contained in protein are automatically spent during the digestion and metabolic processing. So if you eat 1,000 calories worth of protein, your body effectively only keeps around 700 calories. The other 300 are burned off just handling the protein itself. Compare that to eating 1,000 calories of fat or sugar, where you store almost all of it with minimal energy expenditure required.
So, by strategically increasing your protein intake, you automatically increase your metabolic rate throughout the day. You burn more calories doing absolutely nothing. You preserve precious muscle tissue that drives your metabolism and keeps you burning calories efficiently. And you directly weaken the very fat that is blocking your autophagy engine from functioning properly. But how you use protein, especially when breaking a fasting period, matters more than ever before. And that's where the real strategic application begins. This is where the approach truly changes direction from conventional fasting wisdom that's been repeated for years. If you're fasting specifically to lose belly fat,
What matters most isn't simply how many hours you fast in total. It's how you break that fast and what signals you send to your body when you reintroduce food. Old advice said to re-enter eating gently and carefully, usually with bone broth, healthy fats like coconut oil or butter, or something light and easy to digest to supposedly stay in ketosis and avoid shocking your system. But the new data emerging from studies like this one suggests something completely different and counterintuitive to everything we've been told.
When you want to protect muscle mass, speed up your metabolic rate, and still keep cellular cleanup processes going in the tissues that need it most, you should actually break your fast with a powerful, substantial dose of lean protein. We're talking about foods like chicken breast, egg whites, white fish, Greek yogurt, or whey protein isolate. Why specifically lean protein instead of fatty proteins? Because it provides the amino acids your muscles desperately need for repair, without dumping massive amounts of calories, sugar, or fat into your system all at once. That means you feed your muscle tissue exactly what it's craving, without flooding your body with overwhelming energy signals that would shut down cellular repair processes everywhere simultaneously. In this context and practical application, protein isn't your enemy at all. It becomes your greatest advantage and strategic tool. For lean and metabolically healthy individuals, this discovery becomes a genuine biological superpower. You can train intensely, fast for 16 or 18 hours, and then consume a huge protein meal. And instead of ruining all the longevity benefits you've been working toward, you actually enhance both performance and cellular health at the same time. You become what could be called a metabolic hybrid, an organism capable of repairing, building, and cleaning simultaneously, depending on which tissues need what at any given moment.
For people who are overweight or struggling with obesity, this research is even more liberating and removes a huge psychological burden that's been weighing on them. You no longer have to starve yourself or fast for extreme lengths of time to trigger cellular repair. You don't need to live in constant fear of food or treat every single meal like it's going to ruin your progress completely. And you don't need to worry that every single gram of protein is destroying your autophagy and wrecking your longevity goals. By eating around 100 grams of protein after a fasting period or after exercise, you activate powerful satiety hormones like GLP-1 and PYY. These are the exact same hormonal systems that expensive weight loss drugs are designed to manipulate artificially, but you're triggering them naturally through strategic food choices. These hormones naturally reduce cravings throughout the day, stabilize your appetite, and prevent the binge eating episodes that often happen later when you've been restricting too much for too long.
When steady, controlled pace, intentional pauses, slowly starts working again properly, the engine that once refused to start, no matter how many times you turn the key, finally fires up and runs smoothly. Your biology begins to repair itself the way it was always designed to, through millions of years of evolution and natural selection. This new research removes the fear and confusion that's been paralyzing people for years. It proves beyond any doubt that the human body is not fragile or easily broken by food. It's remarkably adaptable, incredibly intelligent, and deeply resilient when you understand how it works. When you give it the right signals at the right time in the right context, it can repair damaged tissue, rebuild muscle, and renew cellular systems all at once without conflict. You don't have to make some impossible choice between looking strong and healthy today versus living a long disease-free life tomorrow. With the right approach, based on actual science, instead of outdated diet myths, you can absolutely do both simultaneously.
When stating protein intake strategically and intelligently, something genuinely powerful happens throughout your entire body. You dramatically reduce hunger and the constant food obsession that plagues so many people. You stabilize your appetite so you're not thinking about food every single hour. You protect the very muscle tissue that drives your metabolic rate and keeps you burning calories efficiently. And as that process continues consistently, belly fat begins to drop week after week. Chronic inflammation decreases throughout your entire system.
and the internal machinery responsible for autophagy slowly restarts and becomes fully functional again.
Eventually, you reach a tipping point where your biology stops fighting against you and begins working with you as a partner towards your goals. This new research frees us completely from outdated fear-based dieting rules that were never based on complete science in the first place. It reminds us that human biology evolved over millions of years to survive cycles of feast and famine, intense physical stress, and deep recovery periods, building strength while repairing damage simultaneously. We're not fragile creatures that break from eating protein. Your body does not want to fail you or make you sick. It wants to restore you to optimal function and health. Give it the right signals at the right time. Supply it with the right fuel in the right amounts. And it will build muscle, repair damage, and protect you all at the same time without any conflict between these processes. So the next time you finish an intense workout or complete a fasting period, don't fear the steak on your plate. Don't fear the protein shake in your hand. And don't fear feeding your body what it actually needs to function optimally. You are not breaking your progress or ruining everything you've worked so hard for. You may actually be unlocking the very results you've been chasing all along. Your body is far smarter and more sophisticated than the oversimplified diet myths you were taught by fitness gurus and social media influencers looking for clicks. Feed it wisely based on real science. Train it powerfully with clear intention. Trust the design that evolution has refined over millions of years. Because with the right approach grounded in actual research rather than fear and trends, you don't have to choose between building muscle today and living longer tomorrow.
When steady, controlled pace, as if guiding someone through an important fitness breakthrough, insert small, intentional pauses between key points to let the message land. Use a calm but energized tone, like a trained fitness coach who loves the science behind fat loss, not a hype speaker. When stating numbers, timings, reps, calories, minutes, heart rate zones, or scientific facts, emphasize them with measured enthusiasm and confidence. Add a slight dramatic buildup before critical insights, strategies, or results, then deliver them clearly and decisively. Keep the voice deep, warm, and reassuring, projecting authority and experience without sounding aggressive. Avoid shouting or over-motivational cliches. The excitement should feel earned, like one fitness enthusiast explaining what actually works to another. End key sections with a confident, motivating close, leaving the listener feeling informed, capable, and ready to act. You can absolutely do both at the same time.